Hello, we're on lesson 9, video number 2 of 2013 Classroom in a Book. We're on page 275 and we're starting with drawing objects in perspective. So we're starting to create some objects. So when the perspective grid is showing, we can kind of change up here to change the planes. And we're going to select the left grid up here. So A is left, B is right. And the colors kind of match. This is horizontal. D is no active grid. So we're going to go to left grid. And we're going to select the rectangle tool in the tools panel, or keyboard shortcut N. And we're going to position the pointer at the origin of the perspective grid. So the textbook has an X at this. We're hovering where it says intersect, and you notice when we hover, our cursor has an arrow pointing to the left. That indicates we're about to draw on the left grid of this plane. Now we drag up and to the left until the gray measurement box shows a approximate width of 2.4 and a height of 3. And it should snap to these lines. So these typical arrows are matching. So we're looking for a height of 3. Close enough. And a width of 2.4. And with the cut rectangle selected, you see path up here. We're going to change the fill color to this orange-red swatch named box left. And stroke none. And that was done without using our control panel. And we're going to zoom in a little more because we're going to get a little bit more detailed. Okay. And we're going to select the right grid up here. And we're going to position the pointer over the upper right corner of the last triangle. So right over here, or see here it says anchor that moves. And we're just going to click, and a box is going to show up. And we are going to click OK. And we're going to change the color to the color should change. I don't know if the color should be box top. We'll just change it to flower for now. Oh, it says graphic styles. So in the graphic styles panel, so keep that one. The graphic styles is the box with 2 little boxes right here. And it's going to already has like a gradient. Now since this one wasn't exactly the measurements, so we're just going to pull up transform and take that height up to 3. Just so we can do our exact. Remember, we were doing those exact measurements several lessons back. We're pulling that up. So now we're going, with the rectangle tool still selected, we're going to go pull that on up, taking the horizontal grid, where that little line should be green, and we're going to kind of position our over to anchor to corner, and we're going to change that color to box top. And that's kind of how it works. And yeah, make sure stroke is none. So now we're going to go to View, Perspective Grid, and Hide Grid. And as you can see, we have a shape that has a 3D look. And we may need to adjust some sizes over here. And you know what? We'll deal with that a little over later. So I'm actually just going to do a couple Command Z's. Actually, make sure this is. Alright, cool. And I'll deal with that little adjustment later. So we have a box going on. So we're going to select and transform objects within the perspective. So we're going to show grid again. And position the pointer over the perspective grid tool and hold down the mouse button. Do the perspective selection. So we're going to right nested underneath, and it would be under Shift V if you were curious. And we're going to click on the triangle on the right grid plane. It's a gradient fill to select it. And you notice that the grid plane, right grid 3, is now selected. And the plane's switching. So it's right there. And the perspective grid widget. So using the perspective selection tool, drag the upper right point of the rectangle up and to the left, with the measurement label showing a width of 2.1 and a height of 3.3. Release the mouse button. And make sure it's snapping to the line. So we want to go up to 3.3. It's not going to snap to it. Nope. Let's take width. So what we're going to do is, while it's selected, go to transform. Right there. And it kind of does this weird adjustment where it's kind of over there. And so right now we're going to go to its behind, so we're going to go Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. So it brings it to the front of the stack. And with the Perspective Selection tool, select the first rectangle you created on the left plane, this one here. We're going to click on the Transform. And we're going to change the reference point to the bottom middle. And then we're going to change this 2.4 width, just make sure it's 2.4, and the height's 3.3. And strain value is deselected. See, it's measuring up a little nicer. And so we're just going to click that again, and we're going to click this red rectangle in the top box, and we're going to drag it up from the corners to kind of nest it together. So you kind of see the cursor changes, and it'll snap up to those points. It should work just fine. Make sure everything is deselected. All right, cool. So now we're on 279, and we're duplicating content in perspective. So we're going to choose View Perspective Grid, Unlock Grid. So now it's unlocked. And we're changing the extent of the grid plane. It allows us to see more or less the grid lines. So select the perspective selection. Actually, I skipped step 3. So select the perspective grid tool, this one here. The tool's made on position the pointer over the right widget extender. And which is by the red X. And when the pointer changes to this plus, drag to the left until it reaches the right edge of this. So ours is way over here. So we're going to pull it on up. There's a sweet spot right there. And it kind of helps us see it fit within that box. So the next we're going to create another product box to the left of the box we've created. So we're going to just copy this content. So we're going to go down here and get the perspective selection tool, Shift V for the keyboard shortcut. And we're going to select the gradient fill rectangle on the shift plane and begin dragging the rectangle to the left. As you drag, we're doing Alt Shift or Option Shift for Alt Shift for Windows and Option Shift for Mac OS. Stop dragging when the measurement label shows a DX value of approximately -1.4. Release the buttons. So I'm holding down Option Shift, and then I am clicking on this box, and I am dragging to the left to -1. 9.4, right there. The shift constrains moments on the 45-degree angle, and the the Alt or Option key kind of copies the object. We're going to drag the upper right point of the new rectangle up to the left to make a rectangle narrower and taller. Stop dragging when the measurement label shows an approximate width of 0.62 and a height of 5.8. So we're going to take this and be small. It's going to be that little smaller box. So we're going to take this here, drag up. So we want a width of 6.2 and a height of 5.8. So there we go. So it's nice and tall. And you see it's all the way down here. So the next is we're going to move objects in a perpendicular direction. Perpendicular is remember that from the math class? So with the rectangle still selected right there, you see our box right around it. Hold down the number 5 key and drag the rectangle to the right a bit. When the measurement label shows the approximate value of dx of 0.25, release the mouse and the 5 keys. I'm holding down the 5 key. This is weird. And we're clicking and we're dragging to the right a bit. So the dx is 0.25. And he just kind of shifted on over. This action moves the object parallel from the location. You could also do Alt or Option while dragging to copy the object while you're moving. So press the Escape key to hide this. and we're just going to do a Command S to save. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop this video, and then the next video will go a little bit more in depth.